Препораката за почнување на преговори на Северна Македонија со Европската Унија без никакви други барања и услови е позитивен сигнал за земјата, бидејќи е базирана на темелна оценка на Европската Комисија за остварениот напредок во речиси сите области. Вели во интервју Фрејк Јан Маат, шеф на одделот за економски прашања во делегацијата на ЕУ во Скопје. Извештајот за напредокот на земјата изобилува со позитивни забелешки, а Јан Маат вели дека клучни се во две области.
When I look at areas where I would say good progress is made, I would certainly think of one of the most important areas, which is the rule of law area. We've seen that North Macedonia was very serious in implementing the reform strategy they had already adopted the year before, and this translated into, for example, the adoption of two important laws, the laws on the Judicial Council, the law on courts as well. But also it resulted in a very transparent procedure and fair procedure for the appointment of members of the State Commission for the Prevention of Corruption. So these are all steps that are going in the right direction. And as well, I would like to point out that the government is involved in a very all-encompassing and serious reform of the public administration, which is also a key area.
Меѓутоа, иако Европската Комисија забележува добар напредок, токму овие области остануваат и најголемите предизвици каде што треба уште многу да се работи.
Rule of law and public administration reforms are really those areas which turn out to be the most challenging, not only for North Macedonia, but I think for all candidate and potential candidate member states. And there, in the area of the rule of law, I think it's really one of the biggest challenges or demands will be to establish an impartial, independent judiciary. And that can only be, let's say, proven by having a track record of cases that are worked on, leading also to judgments and possibly also to convictions in let's say, high-level corruption cases. So this is something which cannot be realized overnight. It's something that should be worked on in the coming months and years, I would say. And then in the area of the rule of law, I would think of the establishment of a let's say a more service-oriented public administration. I always like to compare it to a private company. When you're a private company, you want to satisfy your customers, and well, governments and administration should work the same way. They should want to satisfy their citizens and companies. And then also, I think in this area, what will be required and which should be normal actually is let's say establishing a more merit-based appointment of senior civil servants. So really looking at, is this person qualified, does he or she have the right qualifications to what it takes for the job.
Што се однесува до економските критериуми, иако земјата е оцената многу подобро во споредба со сите останати држави кандидати од регионот, сепак во споредба со политичките критериуми, каде што Европската Комисија нотира добар напредок во делот на економијата, Комисијата посочува дека остануваат клучните слабости.
One of the key areas is trying to diminish the informal economy, because this is really hurting the market, the companies. In fact, when you ask companies what is the main bottleneck, a lot of them will say the informal economy. And why? Because I think those companies that are registered are saying we face unfair competition from those who are not registered. They don't pay any taxes. They are not, let's say, bothered by inspections that come and visit them. So for companies it's important. It's important for the government itself because it loses revenue. It forgoes revenue from those companies because they're not paying taxes. And then for employees it's also important because employees, workers are not insured. So they're not, when something happens, they're not insured against health costs. They don't build up a pension. So in that sense, I think it's important that there is work being done on fighting the informal economy.
Јан Маат, кој што е шеф на одделот во делегацијата токму за економски прашања, вели дека комисијата очекува од властите и попродуктивно трошење на народните пари што ги собира од даноци и придонеси.
In the last couple of years, current expenditure, so ongoing expenditure on wages, on rent, those kind of expenditures are going up. And capital expenditures, so on infrastructure, on roads, on bridges, on energy facilities are going down. And this is, of course, not very good for the productivity of the economy. It's good to invest in the economy also as a government. And so it's important that when you plan these capital investments, you are realistic, and also, on the other hand, that you are, when implementing those investment projects, you have the right capacity and that they're implemented in time, because now what happens is that there is a lot of so-called under-execution. So in the budget there is a plan for capital expenditure, but at the end of the year there's only a lower percentage which is actually implemented.
Јан Маат вели дека во некои сектори во економијата се забележува значителен напредок, но според него клучно е да се подобри капацитетот на домашниот пазар и конкурентноста за извоз во ЕУ.
And there I would like to point out that there are certain positive developments. We see, for example, very positive development in the area of public procurement, where a new law was adopted ensuring more transparent and more effective public procurement procedures. We see very good results in the area of food safety, which is important for consumers and citizens, whereby we see especially good results in animal registration and disease control among animals, leading in turn to more healthy meat products for consumers. We see good progress in the area of energy as well, where we have framework legislation being adopted to align with the so-called third EU energy package, which basically means that now in North Macedonia both the electricity and the gas market are completely open for competition, which will in turn also be beneficial for consumers, which hopefully will translate into lower prices for electricity and for gas.
Кога би требало да сумира, Јан Маат би навел 3 области каде што властите треба да обрнат повеќе внимание.
The first one being the free movement of goods area, where I think North Macedonia really needs to catch up, and this is important because if your products are not living up to EU standards, it's difficult to export them to the EU. So you need more capacity building in institutions looking at this, especially in the area of market surveillance, so in the state inspectorate. Then another area which is important, where definitely more work is needed, is competition, especially in the area of state aid, where we feel that there is more transparency required in the current state aid schemes, and also the competition commission, actually the Commission for the Protection of Competition, should be building capacity and should be allowed to build capacity by the government. And then finally the area of consumer protection and health, where we see actually backsliding, deterioration in the area of tobacco control. So we see in various public spaces that people are smoking again, which is actually, in our view, a step back, and we specify that in the report. And also in the area of cancer screening, we feel that there's much more that needs to be done and much more funding that needs to become available for cancer screening.
На прашањето колку е реално земјата да ги почне преговорите, а кои се ризиците доколку тоа не се случи, Јан Маат вели.
It is a crystal clear recommendation without conditions, based on I would say, very thorough analysis. Now, of course, we have to wait what the European Council, what the European member states will say. I think it would be giving a good signal if accession negotiations could start, not only for North Macedonia as well, but also for other candidates and potential candidates, in the sense that hard work is rewarded. I would not like to speculate on what would happen if there would not be a green light. I think in a way it also What is important is that these reforms that North Macedonia is currently engaged in are good in themselves, you know, regardless of whether or not we take the next step now or we take it in a few months' time. These reforms are, I think, good for citizens, good for companies. So regardless of what happens, I think these reforms should just continue.